Welcome all to this Corporate Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting, which has been convened as a hybrid meeting. The meeting is being recorded and will be available via the Council's website to be viewed subsequently. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing it either from the Council chamber at Civic Offices, Angel Street, Bridgend, or from remote locations. Some of you may already be aware that I have a condition called adult onset epilepsy, which occasionally results in me experiencing short absences or mild seizures. On the rare occasions that this may happen in a meeting, you should not be alarmed, and should I as chair experience one of these absences or have any other technical ICT difficulties during the meeting, it has been agreed that Councillor Penhale Thomas will step in during the meeting. Please can everyone ensure that mobile phones are switched off or switched to silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda, and I will ask the officer to present a brief summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Officers and members are reminded to refer to the page numbers contained in the public version of the agenda report pack. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point. But I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimize any background noise and interference. Whether attending in the chamber or remotely, if any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should click the raise hand icon at the top right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. If you are in the chamber, please switch on the microphone on your desk and speak directly into the mic to allow those who are remote to hear you clearly. Please lower your hand once you've finished speaking. The instant messaging chat button has been disabled for this meeting, and please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Scrutiny will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout its duration, and where necessary will mute those not being used. I will ask officers to introduce themselves when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. I will now proceed to the agenda and item 1, apologies for absence. I'd like the scrutiny officer, Lucy, to announce the apologies for absence received, please.
Thank you, Chair. So we've received apologies for absence from the Mayor, Councillor Martin Jones, due to mayoral duties.
Thank you, Lucy. I believe Councillor Jones is here for the first hour of the meeting, but has to leave for another engagement then. Is that correct, Councillor Jones?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I can attend for the first 45 minutes of the meeting, and then I'll have to leave. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Ross Penhale Thomas, please.
Thanks, Chair. In the event that you and the meeting are still in full flow at 1 p.m, I will unfortunately need to leave due to other commitments. Thanks.
Judging by my history, they normally are, but I hope not. Councillor Tim Thomas, please.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. Likewise, I'm going to have to leave very sharpish at 12:30.
I very much hope that the meeting will be over by then, Tim, but thank you very much. Councillor Hugh David, the leader, please.
Thanks, Chair. I also have to leave the meeting very early, as I have another meeting with Welsh Government ministers, but I will try and stay for as long as I can in this meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. Councillor Paul Davis, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I'll be leaving at 12:30 due to commitments, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Simon Griffiths, please.
Yes, I need to leave at 12:30, Chair, unfortunately. Apologies.
No problem. Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Are there any other apologies for absence? I can't see anyone indicating, so I will move to item 2 on the agenda, and that's declarations of interest. If any member has an interest to declare in any matter on the agenda, please click on the raise hand icon, and I will come to you in turn. I expect they are legacy hands, but I'll come to you just in case. Councillor Tim Thomas.
Sorry, legacy.
And Councillor Griffiths has lowered his hand as well. So unless there are any other declarations of interest, I will now move to item 3 on the agenda, and that's the approval of the minutes. Please can I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes?
Move, Chair.
Seconded.
Thank you very much. Just a note on the minutes from me, and that is they are from a significant period of time ago, and I know that many members have had difficulty in actually remembering the meeting to ensure that they are a true and correct record. But I know that moves are underway to improve the way in which we record minutes, because I know that the Democratic Services team and Scrutiny team are under a great deal of pressure in recording such comprehensive minutes. But hopefully we can have some more timely minutes to ensure that they are a true and correct record of our previous meetings in future. But they have been moved and seconded. Is anyone in objection, or are we all content? So I take silence as everyone's content. So I move to item 4 on the agenda, and that is the first substantive item of today, and that's the workforce recruitment and retention item. I'd like to welcome all invitees, including our trade union representative. I believe that's Neil, is it? Neil Birkin from GMB. Are there any other trade union representatives? I don't believe so.
Yes.
John Hughes, trade union representative from Unison. Welcome to you both. We also have cabinet members, Councillor Hugh David, Councillor Jane Gebby, and Councillor Howell Williams, as well as our Chief Executive Mark Shepherd, Chief Officer Legal and Regulatory Services, HR and Corporate Policy Kelly Watson, and Deborah Beek, Group Manager Human Resources, and Paul Miles, HR Service Centre Manager. So welcome to you all. I'd like to now ask the officer to present the report. Who's going to be taking this one? It'll be Kelly Watson, our Chief Monitoring Officer. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. For the purposes of the recording, my name is Kelly Watson, Chief Officer, Legal, Regulatory, HR and Corporate Policy. Chair, we've had the instruction from Democratic Services that you don't want a detailed run-through of the report. But just before we start, I would just like to introduce my colleagues. We've got Deborah Beek, who's the current Group Manager. But just for all members to be aware that Deborah is retiring at the end of the month on the 31st of March. So we've also got with us Paul Miles, who's been appointed as the new Group Manager from HR. I'm going to hand over to Deb now. I think she's just got a very few bullet points just to set the scene, really, and then we're happy to take any questions members may have.
Thank you, Kelly. I'm sorry to see you go, Deborah, but I'll hand over to you now to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Deborah Beek, Group Manager in HROD, as mentioned. The report today on workforce recruitment and retention. Like many other employers, Bridgend Council faces recruitment challenges. The nature of the Council's business means that these are different across services and occupational professions. For reference, at Appendix 1, which is page 29, we've provided an overview of the Council's workforce with just a few key areas to note. The first two present details of headcount and percentages of the overall workforce, which include schools. The other information excludes schools. In terms of recruitment and retention, the HR teams work with service managers in different ways to seek appropriate solutions. So whilst this report sets out some of the overarching approaches taken, it's not possible to get into the level of detail related to these activities and service-specific issues. We'll be happy to take questions and, if necessary, to come back to you. So, Chair, if I take you to the recommendation of paragraph 9.
Thank you, Deborah. You have taken me at my word about being brief. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. It now enables members to go through the long list of questions which they have. And I would like to invite Councillor Simon Griffiths to make an overall comment on the report.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I think we all recognise the huge challenges in recruitment generally across all sectors of UK at the moment, and especially in public sector. And I think the overall point I'd like to make here is that I'm not sure that we are necessarily recognizing that in all of the corporate reporting that we do. To me, this is underpinning so many of the risks that we as an organization face, because we have underspends in community spending on major projects because we can't get people to do that. We have major issues in social care. I'm sure we have in issues in recruitment within education as well. So there's a common factor across all of those, and I think we need to be able to highlight that not only in the corporate risk register, which is somewhat sort of academic, but something which is really full-faced to say this is a major problem to us. So I do wonder what more we can do to raise the level of awareness across the organisation internally, across councillors, and also across the general public, of how high a level of challenge this is for us, and also the level of risk that we are running. Because even though we agreed a budget yesterday, if we haven't got any staff to spend that budget on, we still going to fail. So I'd like to ask, is there any more that we can do to highlight these challenges and to make them very, very visible to everybody, so that everybody's reminded of the challenge, and so it's in the people's forefront when they go through their everyday job, to sort of recognise that challenge and to take appropriate actions.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Deborah?
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. In terms of what we can do, there's always more that we can do, obviously, but I take your point. It's about raising the awareness of those issues, isn't it? I know Council has agreed it's a corporate plan, and the next stage will be to move on to look at the actions that fall within the delivery plan to support the corporate plan. So I think that's one opportunity that we have to report information. We're, as a HR service, we're working with corporate management boards to produce a strategic workforce plan, and that needs to have input from members as well. So I think, again, that there will be a delivery plan in relation to that, and that can be reported as appropriate as well.
Thanks, Deborah. Councillor Griffiths, you content with that? You'd like to come back in with a supplementary?
Yes, it was actually a point that I think Councillor Davis was going to make as well, around measurement of the HR processes. So Councillor Davis made the point around the duration between the first contact from an applicant and a decision, and I wonder whether that's the type of measure that we would be able to put into that into our corporate plan, because that seems to be across everything. I know that different jobs take different times, but whether we are actually achieving our goals when we recruit, because the process for recruiting somebody for a short-term contract for one job may be very different than a career move for a high exec, for example. But how can we put that into the corporate plan, I guess, is the question. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. I'll bring in Councillor Paul Davis now, just to make another supplementary on that before I bring in the officers and cabinet members.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's something that's brought to my attention, Chair, that it seems to take quite a long time before, like, first contract, as Simon described it, and the actual commencement of the person at that role. Obviously, as Simon stated, it's different for different jobs, but I've got a family member working. I don't want to say too much, obviously, because of the conflict, but it's a general point that it can take several months, for a relatively straightforward job, especially with the DBS involved, to get that recruitment and get that person in position and up and ready to go. Is that a fact of that's just how long it takes, or is there an issue with maybe staffing in the HR section itself? Maybe what is the reason these jobs take so long? Is that normal? I don't know. I'm just asking the question to get some feedback, basically. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Davis. I know that the Deputy Leader would like to come in. Would you like to come in on this point? Or... Okay, I'll bring in the Deputy Leader, Councillor Jane Gebby.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much for your questions, Councillor Griffiths and Davis. I would suggest that over the years, those back office functions that have created efficiencies have not assisted us in the development of our staff, particularly in our HR section. I know that I've made comments previously about legal. It's the same position in HR. when you actually look at the stats that have come through and are detailed in your report, I don't know how 3 people can manage over 3,000 applications. Let's just be very realistic about this. Those back office functions are essential to the smooth running of our council, and we need to be very clear about that. I think the other thing I was going to say was, this isn't just a problem for Bridgend. I think we're in a particularly unique situation here in Bridgend, but actually it's not just Bridgend. This has been going on for many, many years, and it's the same old rhetoric that I've rehearsed here in council many times before about the consequentials that Welsh Government get to give to local government. But that's across public services. It's not just local government. We look at our health board colleagues, we look at RSLs, we look at anywhere that delivers public services, and actually they've been starved of funds. We've got an increase in the demand on our provision. We know that we had an increase in the demand on our provision pre-pandemic, never mind the after effects of post-pandemic. So I think there's a wider political question. In relation to Councillor Griffiths, you asked what more councillors could do. Actually, it's about that lobbying, and it's about ensuring that that rhetoric is out there, because people think that we're just out to destroy services. We really, really aren't. We just haven't got the money, the capacity, or the workforce to deliver at the quality and standards that we would like. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gebby. I'll bring in now Kelly Watson.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to give a little bit of background really to the model we currently operate in HR, because I think it links into this point. So in 2019, it was agreed by Council that we would move to a business partner model. And what that involved is that managers in services took more responsibility for recruitment of their own staff, as well as other things, sickness, absence. So what we've got at the moment is a two-pronged approach, really, where HR provides some support and assistance, but managers should be leading on the recruitment in their teams. And obviously, teams are fully stretched at the moment with operational issues. So for managers, that's adding to their burden. There is a big turnover in staff in the HR recruitment team. That may be partly to do with the pressure they're under in the team. But obviously, every time somebody leaves, we then have to recruit somebody new, train them up and get them familiar with the systems. And obviously, Councillor Davis, as you said, some posts do require external checks like DBS and matters like that are out of our control, and we're in their hands really of the DBS agency for when we get that information back. I think Deb has a bit more detail on the benchmarking side of the question.
Great, thank you, Kelly. Deborah.
Thank you, Chair. The recruitment process, it can be a very lengthy process, and we recently put some measures in place to try to improve that in terms of the work that's undertaken in HR, but also the work undertaken by managers. And I think if you look across our experience of recruitment, you'll see a wide variation in the time it takes to recruit, with some examples of very good practice and other examples where there are delays, and some of them will potentially be in HR for the reasons Kelly's explained, but they can rest with managers as well. So simple things like ensuring that we've got advert dates in adverts before they go out. We've been insisting on that. We've put the adverts out for a little bit longer to try to give more opportunity for people to attract, but also to try to manage the workflow within HR. Kelly talked about DBSs. We ensure, particularly for those posts that work with children, young people and vulnerable adults, that we follow safeguarding and recruitment principles, so that the check-in is critical. We know across the operational activity that quite often we have to wait a long time for references to be returned, and yet they are essential to us fulfilling that safeguarding in recruitment and those principles. In terms of benchmarking, I'm part of a subgroup that works across the HRD network with the WLGA and with Data Cymru, and we are looking at putting in place some new measures. We undertake an annual benchmarking exercise that just collects lots of data, so it doesn't really look at the quality of our services and what good HR, what good workforce management looks like. And one of those areas has been around recruitment. It will be a challenge in some ways to provide that data because we have to have the systems in place in order to do it, but we are committed to looking at that. And I think it would be helpful, not just for us as a local authority to know where the gaps and challenges are, but for us to measure our performance against others. And I think that would be particularly helpful for members then in assessing the performance around recruitment. I'm not sure if there's any part of the questions that I haven't covered.
That was a very comprehensive answer. Thank you, Deborah. I'll come back to Councillor Griffiths and Councillor Davis, though, to see whether they would like to raise anything further.
Can I come back in quickly, Chair?
Absolutely. Councillor Davis?
When it comes to DBSs, Chair, another concern I have is I know for this has happened. So again, I've got to be careful what I'm saying. A member of staff moved from, say, social services carers sort of role into another role, and within the authority, and they already had a DBS, you know, from the previous role. And I'm sure that person had to have another DBS then, you know, for the new role. Surely, if we were already in the system, would he need? It happens with us. It has happened to me recently, where we done a councillor DBS. I've done something else within the authority, which I've had another DBS, and you keep having to do the DBS over and over, rather than just relying on the one. You know, once you've got one, surely that should cover you, but it doesn't appear to. Is that true or not?
There are a few heads shaking and nodding and whatever, so I'll check with Deborah.
Thank you. In some circumstances, the DBS is transferable in the sense that if you move from one role in children's social care to another, then that DBS could be valid. The DBS comes with an enhanced check as well. So if the area of service changes, the DBS are mindful of the role that's been undertaken when they undertake their check. So the rules state that we do have to undertake new checks. They are not transferable from things like employment to fostering or other activities. So it would be right in those circumstances the new DBS would be required. Also, the council has a policy whereby DBS checks are renewed every 3 years. For some professions, that's a statutory requirement, and because of that, the council has taken the view that those safeguarding measures should apply to everyone who has a DBS check. So those are some of the reasons why multiple checks are necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. The Chief Executive has indicated he'd like to contribute, so I'll bring him in first.
Thank you, Chair. If I may, yes, just a couple of points, really. First of all, just to build on Kelly's point about the business partner model, because I know that a number of members outside of this meeting have spoken to me about that. And obviously the business partner model, as Kelly's described, is predicated really on managers having a very significant role. So I think what's been explained is that the process of, for example, filling a post is quite complex and relies also on information and actions from managers. Now, we may have a view whether that is right or wrong, but I suppose what I'd say is that in the understandable desire to cut back office services over recent years, hundreds of thousands of pounds has been taken out of HR, and therefore if you want to put the model back, you have to put the £100,000 back in, I suppose is what I'd say. And then it is almost perfect storm, because we then have a scenario where I think in your papers you'll see that the demand, for example, to recruit and advertisements has gone up threefold. Well, we certainly don't have 3 times as many staff, and therefore what we have is a huge pressure within the system. Now, I'm really, really confident that staff in HR work flat out and very, very efficiently. I have no doubt whatsoever about that. So when we said earlier about what else we could do, I think the other thing members could help is about management of expectations. I sometimes get told, you know, well, can't we do it quicker? Can't we do it better? And I think there are circumstances where we can, and we can try and improve. And I wouldn't want this to be perceived as any lack of ambition about trying to improve. But you'll also recognise, just common sense will tell us, that sometimes if the volume of work is more and the number of staff are less, then we're not going to be able to meet some of the standards that people expect. Now, they're choices we make, and I probably would agree the choices we have made. We're trying to protect frontline services. But the reality is we're going to have this sort of thing quite frequently, whether it's HR, whether it's legal, whether it's elsewhere, where we are running on a shoestring in some of these services, frankly, and therefore that comes out in terms of some of the frustrations that I know members have and others have with some of the things that we do. Now, all of that is to lead you to the original question from Councillor Griffiths is, you know, what more do we need to do? I have to say, and this may be an inconvenient truth, perhaps we have to be more honest. Perhaps we have to be more honest about what we can do, what we can focus on, what we can do well, and not, as I say, any lack of ambition about trying to improve and trying different ways to improve, but also not pretend that we can magically do things better when the volume of work is huge and the number of staff is very low.
Thanks, Mark. Just from my perspective, and building on what Councillor Gebby was saying, the cuts to back office functions does prove to be a false economy in some respects, because it does have an impact on frontline services then if you can't fulfill those positions which support those frontline services. And I know that's been a case now both in HR and I'm sure Kelly will agree in terms of employing paralegals to support some social care services. So I take you on board your point about managing expectations of what is achievable, but of course we shouldn't see as back office functions as an easy win in terms of making cuts, because they're crucial services which support the delivery of our frontline services. But thank you very much for that contribution. There are a few people raising hands now, and I'm getting rather confused about whether they want to come in on this matter or other matters, but I'll come back to Councillor Griffiths first of all to try and tie this up, and I'll seek guidance from whether the leader would like to come in on this particular matter. But first of all, Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm very grateful for the time. I'm personally a great supporter of the business partner model, but I think one of the things in implementations of that model that often gets lost is ownership of the recruitment process. Instead of it being owned by HR, it's owned by individual managers, sort of right the way down the chain. An effective way of being able to maintain drive is to have a recruitment champion within each division who maybe runs a regular weekly call with all the managers who have open positions who are recruiting to check on the progress of each individual check. So it's more about a management sort of layer that you put inside each division that drives forward the recruitment, and then the HR provides the essential services, legal provides services, and anybody else provides services. So the ownership belongs to the directorate, but it's not down right the way at the bottom at the recruiting manager, because as been pointed out, every single manager is running at the moment because they've got so much work to do because of the cuts. But sometimes we can put some management layers on top of that actually helps drive it forward. So I wonder whether that sort of recruitment champion approach with regular checkpoint calls to drive these through, it's really just a reminder of managers, oh, you need to do that, you need to do that. So it's just a sort of a lightweight management overlay on top, or matrix overlay on top of the organisation and the process.
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. Who would like to take that? Anybody fancy taking that one? Deborah would like to take it.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. We currently work a process whereby within HR we meet with business managers from the services on a monthly basis. So that's an opportunity for business managers to come forward from services and bring issues to our attention. Equally then our business partners work with service managers through individual discussions, usually at group manager level, and through attendance of directorate management teams. So there are some processes that align to what you say, to what you're referring to. If there was capacity to strengthen those, I would certainly welcome that. In the report, I talk about not one size fits all, because they are very different solutions across the board. For some managers, they may have the luxury of only recruiting once every few years. For other managers, it's a daily activity. So in the latter example, we've arranged for those managers to come in and physically meet with the recruitment team who do come in on certain days into the civic offices to work together because of the challenges, for them to come in literally on a weekly basis, and that support at home, and I'm looking at Paul for the other area, and catering. So those managers meet with members of the recruitment team that frequently in order to ensure that that the process flow of work is happening as efficiently as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Councillor Griffiths, are you content? Can we?
I think I've probably taken up my allotted time. So thank you very much, Chair.
Yes, I'm conscious of the fact that we might be beating my record of meeting times at this rate, given the fact we've already had half an hour and we're only on paragraph 1 of the report. But I'll bring in the leader now.
Thanks,
Councillor David.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just in response to Councillor Griffiths' question and point, I think as members we can all try and help promote the council as an employer, as a good employer that offers positive opportunities for our local residents, and also take the opportunity to make sure that residents understand that there are opportunities with the council, because it wasn't such a long time ago when people thought that it was very difficult to get a job with the council, and we would have a very large number of applicants for every post, and there might still be people out there that think that is the case still today. So there's more work, and we're always trying hard to promote the opportunities that we have with the council. We are family friendly. We have we offer a good pension, a stable pension to our employees, and of course there are good career prospects for those people that want to progress within the organisation. And I know that we've launched the living and working in Bridgend County Borough part of the website that sets up those benefits the councils can offer. So I'm sure members will help in that when we have specific campaigns. For example, what we've had specific jobs fair for people working in the social care sector. There's had some success, so that support will be helpful. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks. One of the questions I had a bit later on in the meeting, actually, Councillor David, was using councillors as an asset, I guess, to ensure that the vacancies within the organisation are advertised appropriately within their networks of contacts, because obviously we have extensive networks within our specific wards, and as the largest employer within Bridgend County Borough, then inevitably we can be an asset to ensuring that those vacancies are filled. So I'm sure that will happen in the future. Before we move on now, does anyone have any supplementaries on this specific item? Otherwise, we'll move on. Okay, bring in Councillor Amanda Williams now on recruitment in social care, I believe.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what's happening with my camera. It's the lighting behind me. Yeah, mine was a question that was tagged on from Councillor Griffiths's about the overall report and the concerns he raised with regards to the recruitment issues we've got. And I was in a Community Health Council meeting earlier this week. It was a social care awareness session, and we had Care Forum Wales at the meeting, and they raised significant concerns that the problem will not be resolved anytime soon, and for us to understand that recruitment into social care is going to be a long-term problem that they feel is going to be with us for quite some time. So I just wanted to flag that conversation that I'd had based on what Councillor Griffiths had said about recruitment and retention.
Thanks, Councillor Williams. Councillor Gebby has winked at me to say that she would like to come in on this one.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Councillor Williams. I wouldn't disagree with the Community Health Council's assessment of that situation. We already know, despite higher apprentice rates than we've ever had in the history of Bridgend, we know that some of that development is going to take at least 3 years. We also know that even private providers out there cannot recruit. They cannot recruit. So there's a wider conversation about, A, are we trying to get the right people? Is it a question about terms and conditions? Is it about their roles and responsibilities? That is a conversation that's happening with ADSS Cymru, so that's the Association of All Directors. It's a conversation that's also happening with cabinet members across Wales, and the WLGA is picking it up as well. But I don't feel that we have any way at the minute of how we're going to resolve that. There is no one thing that we can do that is going to resolve it either. Thanks very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gevy. Councillor Williams, you content with that reply? I don't expect you to be content, but would you like to
No, that's
make any
fine.
supplementary? Thank you very much. Okay, Councillor Ross Pennell-Thomas, please.
Good morning, and thanks very much, Chair. Can I first of all just say thank you, diolch to Deborah Beek. Thank you very much for your years of service. I think in all the dealings I've had with you, Deb, you've been absolutely fantastic to work with. So Llongyfarchiadau, congratulations, and I wish you a very happy and healthy retirement. I welcome the report today, Chair. I think it's really good to see what's going on in and outside of the authority. And in particular to see and I know it's been discussed in this committee and others before, the Grow Your Own scheme. I think that's really, really vitally important. A bit concerned at the graph that shows the age profile, excluding schools. Clearly a significant section of our workforce is between 46 and 65 years old. And I'm particularly concerned there with certain teams. I've been a member for 10 years, and I know that some employees in the local authority who were there many years ago are simply not there, and they haven't been replaced in very specific areas of expertise. So I'm just wondering if we are clear in our minds that that may be quite a nasty cliff edge for the local authority. I know what it's like to manage vacancies. I'm in my own life outside of council, I'm managing a comms vacancy. It has all sorts of implications for the business, and if you multiply that by some degree, you've got the situation facing the local authority. Chair, I have 4 questions, if you will permit me, and I'll rattle through them quite quickly. Have we considered an employee referral programme? Often in certain areas of expertise, I'm just going to throw out engineers, for example. Engineers will know other engineers in their field. Do we and have we considered an employee referral programme where existing employees can refer other employees who have expertise who can come and join us in the local authority? Have we conducted surveys around the application process? I'm thinking in my own mind, if I wasn't successful for a job, would I be particularly fond of completing a survey for an organisation who decided not to employ me? But I think that's one to consider for the future. Linking into the Grow Your Own scheme, are we working with local colleges and universities to soak up the talent that we have across the region here in South Wales? And probably a question that I'm quite keen on, agency staff. So when you think about the ageing profile of the council, if someone decides to retire at 55 or 60, for example, to what extent are members of staff? Is it an issue in the local authority that those members of staff are then coming back to work for the local authority at quite significant extra cost via agencies? Something that I'd be concerned about if that is an issue for the local authority in the wider field of needing to cut our cloth accordingly. Thanks, Chair. Sorry for those 4 questions. Actually, I'm not sorry.
Thank you very much. Deborah, you've had quite a few questions there. So
I think I've captured...
And I can't believe you've been here 43 years.
So the council does have a record of good retention. So in terms of refer a friend, I think there are lots of mechanisms in place for employees and members to do that, really. Our jobs pages have a specific button that you can choose in order to send the advert on to someone else, so that lands in their inbox. So I was also going to say something else about that, and it's gone. Yes, and obviously we would, in terms of the options available to managers for vacancies, they have the best knowledge and experience of those professions, so they are best placed and can use their professional networks in order to promote vacancies. So I think there is scope around that, even though we don't have any form of a remuneration scheme for referring candidates. The second part, was it about exit interviews? Sorry, I've got a bit of a hearing problem.
So it was around surveys around the application process. So potentially candidates who haven't been taken forward, how they found the application process right the way through from from sending in their application through to the interview, through to the communication they've had, whether or not that's been satisfactory?
Okay, that's not something that we've done, and you know, it may be that those candidates would feel somewhat negative, but the fact that they haven't been selected for appointment, obviously the council, our policy and practice needs to be to appoint the best person for the job. So I think that, you know, there may be scope there for people to identify, for those people to comment on the recruitment process. And whilst there's no formal mechanism for doing that, there is quite, you know, there's plenty of opportunities for informal feedback on those matters. In terms of colleges and universities, again, you know, when we talk about recruitment and retention and the work of HR and managers, there are examples, particularly in social care, where there are quite established and developed work programmes on workforce planning. There are work streams whereby managers go out and meet with colleges and universities. That can be to promote vacancies within your local authority, but it's also about promoting the profession and adding their professional input to those training programmes, which I think is probably as much as an advert for the local authority as telling them actually about our vacancies. In social care, for example, there's also arrangements, particularly for qualified social workers, where they have to have practice placements, practice learning opportunities, and will have opportunities then to come to the council to experience for themselves what work is like here. So lots happening there. I've written down agency workforce, but I haven't got the strand. Sorry, people coming back, thank you. We haven't got a written policy about people who naturally retire returning via agency. I would, you know, from a HR perspective, is something that's discouraged, and I'm not aware that there's wide practice of that happening. Can I pass you to Paul to talk about in one of our our new pension policies about that being a factor?
Yeah, thank you, Deborah. Paul?
Thank you. In pension reports which are due to council for the 15th of March, there's a specific part about the re-engagement of employees and agency workers after they've retired via a termination, via an exit package, whether that be redundancy or redundancy with early retirement. And there's clear process to be followed then. Should any agency workers wish to come back in, there would need to be approval for that to happen. So I think in answering the question about agency workers coming back, we have a process where that would be picked up going forward, where there has been a redundancy or early retirement from the council.
Thanks very much. I know Councillor Gebby would like to come in first of all, and then I'll bring in the Chief Executive. Councillor Gebby.
Thank you very much, Chair. There was just two things I wanted to highlight really for members' awareness. And one is that there's a wider conversation about health and social care staff. Yes, we have conversations with the colleges, but one of our last conversations with the colleges was that they weren't going to deliver a health and social care course anymore because they didn't have the take-up from young people. So there is no point. That wouldn't be effective. It wouldn't be good use of a lecturer's time to sit there with two pupils in there, as an example. And I suppose the other thing that I wanted to raise was there's currently a discussion and ongoing negotiation between all 22 local authorities for a memorandum of cooperation. This is specifically around social work staff and the agency rates that are paid. It is going to cause us some difficulties because we already pay more than what the rate is being recommended across Wales. So we're already in contracts around those agency rates as well. So we need to be very careful about how we play out, how we manage that cooperation agreement. But we agree with it in principle. It's just going to take us some time to actually sign up to it as an authority. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gebby. Mark Shepherd, please.
Just briefly, Chair, I just want to provide some reassurance, really. So while there isn't a formal policy about re-engaging people on an agency basis, clearly we are minded to understand what that looks like and public money. And there are therefore occasions where we've had to do that, but it clearly isn't our preference, and we would ordinarily seek other alternatives. I suppose what I would just say is that sometimes our need for staff in some areas of services dictates that we have to look at all alternatives. But I just want to reassure the member that we are obviously cognizant of that issue.
Thank you, Councillor Pennell-Thomas. Are you content with those responses?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. It seems very clear from Deb's personal answer that her retirement is absolutely final. So again, all the best, Deb. You're not going to be returning on the 1st of April. And I just like to concur with what the leader has said. I do believe that local government is seen as a very good employer simply because of the better terms and conditions that you have. And I think there's more to be done amongst elected members to promote that. I do genuinely believe that BCBC and all local authorities across Wales are seen as good employers with good prospects. And yeah, I think that's worth mentioning. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Pennell-Thomas. I'm conscious of the fact that the Mayor needs to leave shortly. So with the permission of Councillor Thomas, Councillor Bennett and Councillor Walter, I'll bring him in now because he'd like to ask a question before he has to leave for Cardiff.
Please do.
Councillor Martin Jones.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you, Chair. And perhaps with my role as Mayor, I can formally thank Deborah Beek for her loyal service to the authority. 40-odd years is a long time. And Deb, I'd like to personally say thank you. You've always been approachable, always been helpful, and you're fully deserving of your retirement. And best wishes to you and to your family. Thank you. Okay, in relation to my question, Chair, as you know, I'm currently the Forces Champion for Bridgend County Borough Council, with a responsibility to ensure that we meet our obligations under the signed Force Covenant. And part of our responsibilities is to present and implement a guaranteed interview scheme for military personnel, and we do that. So I have two questions. One is, when we implement the scheme, and for those applicants who are not successful, do we collate any data that we can provide feedback to military personnel? And is that data available so we can feed that back to organisations, charitable organisations that support military personnel? So that's my first question. And secondly, is there a way through the Forces Champion route to reach out to various support networks with the military to be proactive in terms of recruitment, and just embracing some of the comments that have been made previously by Councillor Ross Penhale-Thomas about the fact that we are a good employer. So it's perhaps being proactive with military personnel as opposed to being reactive. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Hugh Davids indicated he may want to come in on this, first of all.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chair. Just to say that this is an area where we've made some significant progress, and we can be proud of that. So the last time we checked, I know that Councillor Thomas asked a question on this. This was last year. We can get more up-to-date information, but there had been, I think, 40 applicants who declared that they met the criteria for a guaranteed interview with us, and eight of those had been appointed to the authority. So at least 8 veterans, and that's where they've made that declaration. And there's a really good suggestion from the Mayor that we look at how we can try and target veterans because of our responsibility, because of the covenant, but also because we know that they make excellent employees. We have asked if some of those veterans who've joined us, if they would be prepared to share their appointment and some of their story and their background, but they're all been a little bit shy and reticent about that, because we wanted bring it to life for other veterans, and if they could see and identify with employees of the council, we thought that might be helpful in terms of the process. But I'm sure we could pick that up through Kelly and Paul with the mayor and the network, and there's some more actions I'm sure we could do to try and further that level of engagement with our veterans. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much, Leader. Mark, was it on this point? Oh, it's a legacy hand, so I'll bring in Deborah now. I think she wants to contribute.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's just a reminder in terms of the guaranteed interview is that applicants must meet the essential criteria in order to be considered, in order to be afforded an interview. And thank you to the leader for retaining the information that was provided previously about the success rates in terms of those appointments. We don't currently collate information on those who are unsuccessful, but it's something that can be explored. But in particular, I think we need, it should be explored in terms of recruitment opportunities and what scope there is and what networks we can link into there. We have got a veteran working in social care who's recently been prepared to join our employee health and wellbeing group. So I think that somebody there is coming forward, looking to support the authority in terms of health and wellbeing, and I think that's probably, there's some scope there for that individual to support this agenda as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Mr. Mayor, are you content with the responses?
Yes, very much so, Chair, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to ask the question. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Hope your day goes well. Councillor Tim Thomas.
Thanks, Chair, and congratulations to Deborah on her retirement. I very much enjoyed working with you when I was involved in the recruitment of senior officers and directors. So, yeah, happy retirement on that. But looking at the report, says that traditionally there's been challenges trying to fill specific groups, and they've listed solicitors, social workers, engineers and ICT. The report quite rightly says that this is a challenge across all local authorities. I think Simon made this point as well. That's definitely true of local authorities across the UK. I think it's a challenge for the private sector as well. So we're not, those listed occupations are not unique to this authority. But I think there are specific and unique challenges to this local authority, and one particular challenge I believe is the recruitment of Welsh-speaking teachers, and I think it must be enormously challenging to recruit Welsh-speaking teachers, for example, for the STEM subjects. And I've had conversations with the Director of Education. I respect the fact he's not in this meeting, nor is the Cabinet Member for Education, but he was outlining that this is a major challenge, and this was in the previous term, but he was exploring opportunities for specific incentives. And it might be the case that for this particular group that I've identified, we just don't have the people living in the county borough. So we might have to look outside the box of incentivising them to come into the county borough. So maybe things like free transport, for example, that's one possible solution. But I'm just wondering, is this still a challenge, the recruitment of Welsh-speaking teachers? And if so, do we have any plans to tackle this problem? Or are we satisfied that we can cater for Welsh-speaking, the continuation of Welsh language in education? Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Thomas. So Welsh-speaking teachers and incentivising them to come to Bridgend. Who would like to take that? Nobody. Paul will take it. Well done, Paul.
Thank you. I am aware there has been challenges in the past, especially in the Welsh Secondary School, with that. Colleagues, business partners in the schools team have worked and are continuing to work with the head teacher and leadership team there to look at filling vacancies, and there are opportunities for them to decide what packages are available when recruiting into subjects where there's particular shortages. Colleague Councillor mentioned STEM subjects. I know there's been challenges in the past. I think the challenges and unique to Bridgend, I think, in terms of that, and we've got to continue our work with the Welsh schools to look and appoint as best we can and look at other alternatives in terms of attraction. With that, I think it is ongoing, but again, it isn't something that can easily be remedied given the supply out there, really.
Thanks, Paul. I'm just jumping the gun a little bit, but is this where a market supplement policy could come in any way? With regards to incentivising certain. Sorry, someone's got their microphone on. Potentially attracting people to different posts where we're struggling to recruit.
Market supplement policy doesn't apply to teachers, but they've got their own terms and conditions, and there are recruitment and retention allowances built into that, recognising the need to attract teachers for certain areas, and that's the national condition, not Bridgend.
That's useful clarification. Thank you, Paul. Councillor David, the leader, would like to come in.
Thanks, Chair. I think Paul has covered that, and I can confirm that last month I was at Ysgol Gyfun Gymraeg Llangynnoed with the Minister for Education and Welsh language. He was visiting the school, and the school are working very closely with us, and they're working very closely with Welsh Government on ways to try and address those challenges that are greater in Welsh medium secondary education and in some of those STEM subjects as well. They're also a problem in English medium education as well, but the challenges are greater in Welsh medium education. Ysgol Gyfun Cymraeg Llangynnoed is our only Welsh medium secondary school, and it was pleasing to hear that they have a very good record actually of staff retention, and I think that reflects the success of the school and the focus on the well-being of staff. But we can get an update for the committee on the latest position at the school as our only secondary school, but I can confirm that it continues to be a priority for them as the consortium and Welsh Government, particularly looking at the teacher training route as well, because what we also need to do is identify that and grow that next generation of teachers. And of course, that is an area where Welsh Government has a leading role. And I know that the head teacher at Llangynnoed has played a very effective and leading role in national fora in making the case for changes to try and secure that long-term supply of new teachers coming through, because of course we have an agenda of expanding significantly the provision of Welsh medium education across South Wales and in all English speaking parts of Wales. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Councillor David. Councillor Thomas, are you content?
It seems quite clear to me that we've got to keep a careful eye on this one. I've got no chance of making the recommendations part of this meeting, but this could be a good priority area that members might want to consider. But as it stands, yes, content. But I think this is something we need more information on and perhaps revisit. But thank you.
Okay, thank you. Those comments have been noted. I'm conscious of the fact that we're entering hour 2 of the meeting now, and we haven't gone past the background of the first report. So I would kindly ask members to keep their questions and the respondents to keep their answers succinct wherever possible. But Councillor Bennett, Councillor Walton and Councillor Williams have been incredibly patient, so I'll come to Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. My questions are on retention and grow your own. So I note on page 26, 4.21, it refers to exit interviews. And I know that that is patchy across the authority. There is a comment there that says it requires a council-wide approach. And I'm just wondering, has that been implemented yet? Or is there a timescale for that? Because it can provide very rich data. Exit interviews can provide very rich data in terms of ongoing recruitment. So that's my first question. Do you want my second question, or shall I have the answer first?
Yeah, we can have the answer to that one, Councillor Bennett first. I also picked up on that. So just what information have you gleaned from exit interviews, essentially?
Thank you. Good practice around exit interviews is that they're undertaken outside of line management and face-to-face, but clearly, given the numbers of people who exit the organisation, that's quite a challenge for us to achieve. As part of the work around recruitment and retention for social workers, we've been undertaking exit interviews for a number of years, and that information is regularly reported back to the project group so we can focus on the reasons that are being given and look to see if there are any gaps in the work that we're undertaking as part of that recruitment and retention group. One theme that's come from the children's social work is around work pressure, and lots of attention has been given to caseload management, for example, in relation to that. Then in terms of a council-wide approach, it feels like we've got gold standard in one area and then an absence of information in others. So we have got the exit interview form that we currently use. We've put that, we're working with people in comms so that's available online. And we are building a process whereby when people are leaving, they will be automatically sent an exit form. The challenge then comes with us being able to analyse the information in a meaningful way. But good progress is being made, and there should be something in place by the 1st of April.
Thank you, Deborah. Councillor Bennett, over to you.
Thank you, Deborah. My second question then is around the Grow Your Own schemes mentioned on page 26, 4.23. It refers there to the graduate schemes that are being involved and used by the council. And my question is, are we making full use of the CCR graduate scheme? And if so, how many graduates are we achieving through that scheme?
Thank you, Councillor Bennett. Deborah?
Thank you. At the moment, the graduates that we've got in the council are all funded from service budgets, and I think at the moment we've got nine graduates. I think one or 10 is pending recruitment. I'm not aware that we have funding from the CCR arrangements in order to appoint graduates. I think we still have to find the salary from within our existing budgets, but I'm quite happy to explore that further to make sure that we've got up-to-date information.
Thanks, Deborah. I think Mark Shepherd would like to come in with a contribution.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Bennett. I will check this and come back to you, but my understanding for the graduates I met from the CCR scheme is they're generally placed in private sector jobs rather than with local authorities, but I will double check that.
Thank you. Are you content, Councillor Bennett?
I'm happy with the answers, thank you. But it would be really good to find out about the CCR if they're only placed in private sector. That's interesting to note. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll ensure that information is circulated. Thank you very much. I know Councillor Walter and Councillor Williams had questions on apprenticeships and Grow Your Own, so this may flow on nicely from the previous discussion. But I'll come now to Councillor Walter, who's been very patient.
Thank you, Chair. No problem. I'll make it as succinct as possible. Two areas, really. Firstly, on the apprenticeship scheme at 4.24, it notes that 144 apprentices have been appointed, and the maths tells us that 74% of those have either got permanent employment or are undertaking their apprenticeship, which is good. It's positive. So my question relating to this, there's two parts. Firstly, over what time period is that 144? And secondly, what plans are in place to perhaps develop and expand that programme? The second question is a more general point, Chair, which I'm happy to leave until the first answer.
Thanks, Councillor Walter. Deborah, you're having a good final meeting here. Deborah.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. I just need to check that date. It is over a number of years, but we started from a very low base and needed to apply some encouragement or stealth, really, with managers to try to commit to using their existing budgets to undertake apprentices. Martin Morgan's one of our managers is here today, and he's somebody who's certainly championed that and has seen the long-term benefits of that within the service. In terms of expanding the programme, we're always looking for any opportunities to increase the apprenticeship numbers. Is something I've been very, very passionate about. We have a corporate budget of 300,000 that we are constantly working with finance colleagues in terms of planning, and we've got a meeting with the corporate management board next week to look at where we can prioritise the money that's available at the moment. So obviously there is turnover, but with the corporate monies, once the apprenticeship ends, that money becomes available to recruit another apprentice. So we maximise all opportunities there.
Thank you, Deborah. Councillor Walter.
Yeah, thank you for that. On a more general point, looking at recruitment as a whole, do we have any stats which tell us what percentage of appointments complete the probation period and what percentage of appointments leave within 12 months? In a previous life, a business I worked in, when we uncovered those two particular stats, they were extremely illuminating. I'm sure it's positive for the authority, given all the feedback about, good place to work. But the question is, do we have those measures in place, and what do they tell us? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walter. Who would like to take that? Deborah again.
I have got the stats, and I'm rushing to try to find them. I think it is a very good measure to look at that first year in employment in terms of what is happening, because the whole process needs to ensure that we are attracting the right people for the right jobs, and it is about us ensuring that that's a good match, but the employees as well. Sorry, can I just come back when I've found that figure?
Absolutely, no problem.
If it helps, Chair, in light of time constraints, I'm happy to have that afterwards. But there's two elements to it. There's those that don't pass probation. If it was a high number, it would point towards difficulties around the recruitment process. And then those that leave within 12 months might point towards, as Deb said, a difficulty in terms of a match either from the employer or the employee's expectations. But happy to have them afterwards if that helps. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walter. We'll ensure that those statistics are circulated in due course.
Thank you.
Councillor Williams.
Thanks very much. I've got 3 areas of questioning that I raised in the pre-meet. I don't know if you want me to bring those in now. One was on the attractions, one on the hard to fill posts, and one on the grow your own.
Yes, you may as well, Councillor Williams, because I'm conscious of time.
Yeah, right. Okay. The hard to fill outposts I leave to the end, because I know that I think Councillor Paul Davis wanted to come in on that one as well. So with the grow your own, we've talked about colleges, but also there's an opportunity in schools. In social services scrutiny, I did raise about the fact that a comprehensive school in Bridgend is now doing a social care GCSE and A-level. So it would be beneficial to go into those schools before they choose their options for GCSEs and A-levels, to explain that, to encourage more children to go into that sort of career. So the corporate director for social services said that they were looking into that. But I wondered, what are we doing for other careers and other job paths? Are we working with the schools? Because there's a vast number of children who are now going to be leaving school, and if we've got a lot of jobs, what are we doing to work with these children and the schools to possibly use those and bring them into careers into the council? Do you want me to stop there for that answer?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Councillor Williams, I'll bring Councillor Gebby now.
Thank you very much for your question, Councillor Williams. Just to reassure you, we are working with schools. They actually have career days now, and we have officers go out into the school and they set up stalls. and it's not just around social care. I was very fortunate to go and attend one of them. It was for all areas of the council, so there were very varied opportunities. So I'll keep my answer brief, Chair, because I'm conscious of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gebbie. Councillor Williams, back to you.
Great, thank you. On the attraction part of the report, 4.10 to 4.13. Now, I've had the absolute pleasure in the last year to be one of those Homes for Ukraine sponsors, where I had a family from Ukraine live with me for 6 months. They've moved on now. But one of the issues they had was getting jobs. And I wondered if we're missing something here. We've got an awful lot of refugees who've come into the local authority who are very well skilled, very well qualified, and are struggling and having to try and find these jobs themselves. I wondered if there is a way that we could have an officer who's targeted to work with these individuals and use them to our benefit. They want jobs and we need people to fill some of these posts. So what are we doing to work specifically with these people to provide them with jobs and hopefully utilise their skills?
Thanks, Councillor Williams. Councillor Good has indicated that he'd like to reply.
Thank you, Chair. I recognise I'm not actually formally in this meeting currently, but I just thought I'd come in. Thank you for that question, Amanda Williams. Councillor Williams. Sorry, I'm definitely not in this meeting, am I? As you'll be aware, we do work with TAF Housing on this, and there is a lot of work done to wrap around the support we give to our Ukrainian guests. We also work with employability to do that as well. I think there is always a bit of an issue in terms of finding the best place for them. You know, as she'll understand, there is often a disparity between the level of English that some guests have compared to others, and I think that does create some complexity. But certainly I know the team with Martin and other parts of the council do work really hard to offer those opportunities and to find the best way forward for those individuals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Williams, you contend?
Well, I can see the answer in that, but I know when I've assisted them looking for jobs, it's been me and a laptop and scouting around everywhere. I don't think they've actually had that contact. So maybe that's something I'll pick up with Councillor Good outside of this meeting to see if we are doing all that we can for these individuals. But if I go into my last question, which was on hard to fill posts, and this is specifically around schools and breakfast clubs and lunchtime supervisors, because these are jobs that are only 1 or 2 hours a day. And I wondered, knowing as a governor in Coity Primary School, for example, we've struggled. I think we're on about our 6th or 7th advert out now for breakfast club staff. So we don't currently have a breakfast club because we don't have any staff to man it. And likewise, I know a number of schools have gone out to re-advert for lunchtime supervisors. So I wondered what we can do, because by just continually putting adverts out there and not getting any applications, how can we improve this because we do need to fill these posts? Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Williams. Deborah?
Thank you, Councillor Williams. As I mentioned earlier, really, recruiting managers have opportunities to share recruitment adverts in a variety of ways, really. So we would hope that that's being maximised in terms of other communication mechanisms they have with potentially with the local community. I'd be more than happy to have conversations with managers there, rather than just continuing to go out to re-advert in a traditional way.
Thank you, Deborah. And I think Councillor Davis wanted to come in with a supplementary on this particular item and a comment on internal versus external applicants.
Yeah, let's deal with this one first, Chair. The hard to fill post which Amanda referred to there. The way I see it, Chair, the hard to fill post, if 1 hour for a lunchtime supervisor or 1 hour for a breakfast club person, they're quite difficult to fill, I would have thought. But isn't it, it's more an idea than a question, Chair? Wouldn't it be an idea to give the people interested in these sort of jobs the sort of alternative to join them together into where they do 2 or 3 different roles maybe, and the contract is one contract, because you've got several different contracts, several different applications forms you'd have to fill in just for one, just for 1 hour. It's not a great attractive sort of proposal to me for someone to do that, but that might suit some people. I get there, but I think they should know if they want to join them together, they could be somehow joined together, give them one firm contract with maybe 2 or 3 different items in it. Should I ask the other question now, or wait for that answer first, Chair? But,
we'll take that answer first, if you don't mind, Councillor
okay,
Davis.
Chair, yeah,
thank
you.
Oh, Councillor Gebby would like to come in.
Thanks very much, Councillor Davis. We already have, I want to say, some of them are our learning support staff who already do breakfast clubs, who do lunchtime duties. We actually amalgamate those contracts together on occasion. I think the one thing you need to be careful of, as you know, we have a job evaluation scheme, and sometimes that's the difficulty, because people will be paid at different rates for doing different roles. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, yeah, it was an idea, that's all. Thank you, Councillor Gebby.
Thanks very much for that clarification and for the question, Councillor
Yeah,
Davis.
the other question, Chair, is on when people move up the ladder. That question, isn't it? This relates back to the grow your own and apprenticeships and things that have been brought up already. When you move up the ladder, obviously you leave a vacancy behind you, don't you? Which is obviously still an issue, because you don't actually reduce the amount of staff you need. You just shunt one person up the ladder. The point I was going to make is evading me a second. No, it's gone a second, Chair. I have to come back to that one. The actual point I wanted to make is gone. The issue of filling, obviously.
Sorry, the issue was internal versus external applicants, wasn't it? So when
that's right.
When applicants are recruited internally and move up through the organisation, it inevitably creates vacancies further down the organisation, doesn't it?
Right, yeah.
And those have to be filled by external vacancies. So essentially, it's a situation where the status quo is the status quo reigns, and we don't see the overall workforce increasing. So I think you are asking Councillor Davis in the pre-meeting about how we address that through external recruitment.
Thank you, Councillor David. I go back to an earlier point, really, is the best candidate for the job. And I think that whilst it is ideal to bring in new employees to the council in terms of that number, it's equally important that we provide promotional opportunities for existing staff that we are training. So in many cases we go out to the market but still recruit internally, and I think that's right and proper, because then we are demonstrating that we've got the best person for the role.
Can I just come back in quick? Chair, that was a point I was going to... If the demoralisation of staff that are there, if you recruit from outside, so you need to be careful sometimes. I'm a big fan of progression, is what we're talking about here, isn't it? But there's obviously a school of thought where you bring new blood into the organisation for new ideas, etc. So there's a balance to be struck there, isn't there? So as long as that's been considered, I'd be happy, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks. It's striking that right balance, isn't it, Councillor Davis? Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your contribution. I know the leader would like to come in now, and then I'll bring in Neil Birkin.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll have to go shortly for my meeting with Welsh Government, which I'm late to already. But before I do, I hadn't realised that it was Deb's, and forgive me if I take a moment to do this, I hadn't realised it was Deb's last meeting. She's kept that quiet, but I have to personally thank the group manager for her public service in Bridgend. I've been privileged, and it has been a privilege to work with Deborah since I've been a councillor, and she's been an outstanding officer. One of the reasons why we've recruited over 144 apprenticeships is because Deborah has been personally so passionate and committed to that agenda of growing our own. And Deborah's also been very committed and passionate to the well-being of our staff, and initiatives like having our own counselling service for staff. And I won't forget during the pandemic, during those dark days of the pandemic, that Deborah was there when we weren't sure whether we would be able to keep the organisation going, and she rose to the challenge, and I'll be forever indebted to her for her service to the authority. So thank you. And can I take the opportunity to congratulate the new group manager, who is also a product of our Grow Our Own scheme. I think Paul started with the council when he was about 15, 16, I'm not sure, but it's really good to see people that started out as a trainee apprenticeship reaching that senior level. And I really do wish Deborah the very best of retirement. She deserves it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David. I'm looking at their faces. I know how much they appreciate your tributes to both of them. Thank you very much for that contribution, and I hope the meeting goes well with Welsh Government. I bring in now Neil Birkin, one of our trade union representatives.
Thank you. First time for me to attend, so thank you very much. Just to reassure the councillors that when we have restructures, the trade unions ensure that we promote within. So when you have that succession, people move up, and what you find then is the post that's left, if it can't be filled within house, then goes out. So it's something that happens in practice. So I'd like to reassure, wherever possible in restructures or promotional areas, we promote within. It only goes external when there's a need for the skills base that is not within that service area, or it's a promotion, it's a high top job spec. So I think it's obviously just to reassure that that does happen in practice throughout the authority and restructures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. That's useful clarification. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Howell-Williams now, Cabinet Member for Resources.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And can I first thank you, Chair, for putting this item on the agenda. It's been a very positive morning, I believe, and it allows us to put a focus onto a very important aspect of the council. Now, it is on our corporate risk, recruitment and retention, and it's a great opportunity to provide a positive focus for this. It has been said that attraction is very important, and that is important as well, because we want Bridgend County Borough or the Bridgend Council to be the employer of choice. We're the largest employer. We've got 6,000 headcount of staff, and we want people to want to work for the county borough, and so that is important. And we're here we support them and we'll encourage them. And I think we've got very good examples along the table here of career path, the opportunities that we've got within the county borough. I've been here too long, and I can remember these officers in junior roles, and now we're at the top table. And so the career opportunities for the council are very positive and has to be encouraged. The retention is also very important, and that I think is important that we maintain a positive image of the authority. As elected members in particular, we've got a big responsibility to maintain that positive image for the authority. And when it comes to workforce planning, I'm very encouraged by the new school curriculum. I was lucky. Before I went to school, I knew I was going to be, before I left. School basically got in the way of what I wanted to do when I left. So I was in a very privileged position. But we do need to work with our schools. So that is the future of our workforce within the schools. And the opportunities are across the authority. They are, you can build roads. You can look after people, you can educate people, you can manage finance. The communications department, we've got hundreds and hundreds of service areas, and we just need to be promoting that in schools as a real prospect that you can be paid to do something that you've got a passion for. And I think we've got a golden opportunity there, and I certainly welcome, it is mentioned in the report, we're going to develop a workforce strategy, and I think that's going to be part of it. It's about really growing our own and going into schools and promoting working for the local authority as a real prospect to have a proper fulfilled life. So I'm going to finish now, obviously, by thanking Deb. I mean, what an officer to work with. She's been absolutely fantastic support, and like the leader said, when we got through the pandemic, Deb was there. She was a real calm sort of, yeah, I know what we need to do, and it's just awesome being working alongside you, Deb. And thank you. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Councillor Williams. I'm sure we'll all echo that, Deborah. Thank you very much indeed for your service. But at least you don't have to face an election, which is one thing, which is obviously why you've had such a long and a happy career at Bridgend County Borough Council. Anyway, we will now move on, councillors, with your permission, because I'm conscious of the fact that we're reaching the hour-and-a-half mark. But we do want to cover a few other items, and this is first of all, recruitment advertising. So if I can ask Lucy to put up the website pages whereby we recruit our, we put our advertisements for new positions, if that's possible. I'll come to Councillor Simon Griffiths first. I know he wants to come in on recruitment, and I'll probably ask a supplementary as well. I think you wanted to come in on section 4.5, Councillor Griffiths, didn't you?
Yes, thanks, Chair.
Okay.
I think the question is, have we really left every stone unturned when looking for different channels to get our message out there? And then added to that, for specific positions, are we also using targeted recruitment agencies who go to look for people on our behalf? I know that can be costly, but given the emergency situation, I think that's something that we should think about as well. So really, question is there anything else that we can do that we haven't already done? And are there some out-of-the-box areas where we can still look for more opportunity?
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. And just as a supplementary for me then on recruitment advertising, as we can see from the website on the screen here, I took a look at the website before the meeting, and they seem to be separated into three different sections: general job vacancies, schools vacancies, and social care vacancies. And we're continually told that there are huge numbers of vacancies within the organisation, but this doesn't necessarily seem to be reflected on our website. It seems to be a bit cumbersome, in my personal opinion. It doesn't seem to have a holistic view where people can see what opportunities there are in our organisation. What other sort of platforms have we used to advertise our vacancies? For example, the very well-known recruitment website Indeed and others is a common recruitment website where people look for opportunities. They sign up for keywords, for example, I don't know, like communications or engineering, and they have alerts. Do you feel that the way in which we advertise our vacancies is the most appropriate way to attract those people to apply for vacancies? Because, for example, on the advertisement website Indeed, I searched for Bridgend County Borough Council vacancies, and they had the title Team Leader, which is one of our posts, of course, or Group Manager. Now, that wouldn't necessarily come up on people's alerts. So can we be a bit more, I don't know, inventive in the way in which we advertise our vacancies to ensure that we reach all the potential audience? Because I'm conscious of the fact that a number of vacancies haven't attracted any applications at all. So perhaps you can answer Councillor Griffiths' point and mine in one response, if you can. Paul, please.
Thank you. I think firstly, all our jobs go live on our website, and then they go to other sites and other venues then to try and maximise the candidates that come in. We advertise most roles not only on our website but go on Guardian job pages, and they're seen as the sort of market leader in terms of wider jobs. They're linked to Bridgend and what have you. Those jobs also go onto LinkedIn as well. So there's a lot to gain on there. Whilst we don't have a contract with Indeed, our jobs do end up on there. They have their own methods of putting jobs on for a number of organisations who don't have a relationship with them, so to say, but they still nonetheless advertise. I think the point about keywords is very important, and whilst our job title goes on there, it's what keyword we put in that job title. In addition, payroll, social work, engineering, or something like that. So the job searches work and are taken forward with that. So we'll continue to try and look at that. So when people search on our page, when you go into the jobs, you pop a keyword in social work. It will give you every social work job, but not only a social worker, social work manager, and wider with that. Just mentioning, I think the earlier question was about what else we do. Where we have specific posts, we go to a sort of higher level package with the Guardian that uses technology to not only attract active applicants, but look at the passive audience. And there is a charge to that, so it isn't done for every post, but we do take advantage with some higher level posts and some very hard to fill posts where we go to enhanced packages with the Guardian.
Great, that's really useful information. Thank you, Paul. Councillor Griffiths, would you like to come back on the point you made?
Apologies, legacy hand, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. We'll now move to 4.14. I believe that's managing hard to fill posts. And I think Councillor Martin Hughes had a question on that. Martin?
Thanks, Chair. Sorry about the delay. My question is specifically about paragraph 417. It's the market supplement policy, which was introduced in October 2021. I think it would be useful for the meeting to consider how successful that has been. If we could have some indication of the numbers who've signed up, have been signed up to it, what the additional costs are, and whether it's demonstrated cost effectiveness. And it's something that we might want to pursue. I think as an aside as well, it would be handy if after the meeting the policy could be shared. And it seems to me that it's a movable feast, isn't it? So I think perhaps a regular review of the policy would also make a lot of sense given the circumstances. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hughes. I'm not sure whether the market supplement policy is a temporary policy, but Deborah will be able to clarify.
Thank you. The policy it exists, as the report says, introduced in 21. As with all HR policies, that will be reviewed from time to time. But the introduction of a market policy, of a market supplement, is a temporary arrangement. It's important, as Councillor Gebby said earlier, that the Council maintains its position with regards to job evaluation and doesn't leave itself open to risk for equal pay claims. So it's been introduced in one application has been successful, and there are 2 other applications ongoing at the moment. That one application applied to some 100 staff in social services, and the amount was for 5,000 per annum. It's very difficult to measure whether the success of that, alongside a number of other strategies that are ongoing with regards to recruitment and retention. There has to be a very robust business case, as you can imagine, for a market supplement policy to apply, because that would be a potential legal challenge in terms of equal pay going forward. And it has to hit the criteria in terms of there being vacancies and high level of vacancies and not being able to recruit into those posts. I think it's fair to say that the challenges that exist in children's social work have not been resolved through the use of a market supplement, and it's something we will need to continue to review. The application of the market supplement is for a 2-year period subject to review. So a permanent policy, but the application is 2 years and then a further review.
Thanks very much, Deborah. Councillor Gebby would like to contribute as well.
Thank you very much, Chair. Not to take up too much time, I don't agree with job evaluation as a position. What I would say is it's a sticking plaster in order that we assist and try and get some more staff in post. It always has implications for job evaluation perspective, particularly, as Deb has just said, around equal pay. I'm sure as all members, as we're political, are aware of equal pay issues. That's not a position that I want the council to be in. What I would say is that there is also a wider discussion. So there's a discussion going on in Wales at the minute as to an all Wales pay evaluation and job description for all manner of things. That's being done by the WJEC, no, not by the WJEC. It's by the Joint Council for Wales and the WLGA. There's also a wider discussion around our spinal point system anyway, nationally, as an employers group. I'm fortunate that I sit on the employers group for Wales currently. It is a conversation that I'm involved in. I don't agree with some of the job evaluation perspective, but actually that's what's agreed and that's what we have to work within at the minute until it's all evaluated appropriately. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gebby. Councillor Hughes, are you content?
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks very much. I'm conscious of time, so I understand we have one further question now from Councillor Simon Griffiths on retention. 4.19, I believe, Simon.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So I think retention gets a small entry in this report, but I think everybody agrees that if we can retain staff, it's much easier than having to recruit them. Recruitment is a lengthy and expensive process. And I wanted to ask really about whether we give enough focus on development plans, succession planning. We heard earlier about this very successful apprentice programme, and it is easier to bring in apprentices than it is to hire senior staff. So do we have for each of the directorates a development plans for all of our employees, giving them something to look forward to something to work towards, training plans associated with those? I think all of that type of thing are the things that really help employees feel valued and that they have a future in the organisation, and then help retention. And if we're doing that and pushing people up the ranks and able to recruit internally, if you like, as people come up through the ranks, then it enables us to have to just fill the bottom. So the general question is, do we have all of those development plans, training plans, succession plans in place for the majority of our directorates?
Thanks, Councillor Griffiths. Deborah?
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. The short answer is, in some cases, it's not embedded that as much as it needs to be, and that's part of the ongoing, the further future work that we need to do as a council on succession and workforce planning. You're quite right in terms of succession planning does exist in terms of the grow your own schemes. Development plans are part of the appraisal process, and good practice is encouraged there, whereby future training and career opportunities are considered as part of that process. But in terms of retention, the critical bit is about our workforce feeling valued and us being able to demonstrate and put ourselves up as a good employer.
Thanks, Deborah. Councillor Griffiths, you content?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other contributions from members? I'd also like to invite our trade union representatives to whether they would like to make any contribution, if they'd like to make any further contribution, rather. If not, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, sorry.
We'll go to John first, if that's okay, Neil, and then we'll come to you. John, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Nothing to say with regards to the report, really. I mean, there's been some very in-depth questions, and it's a report that doesn't come as a shock to us. We work very closely with HR on these matters. I won't bore you with any more on that. Just only to take an opportunity, like others have done, to thank Deb, and we have worked very closely over the couple of years. It was a good relationship, and I also wish her all the best in her retirement on behalf of myself, obviously the branch committee, and the wider Unison membership. So thanks, Deb.
Thanks very much, John. Neil?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what John said, working with Deb, and wish her all the best for retirement, and looking forward to working with Paul going forward. As I said, we've known him for a long time now, and we've got a good working partnership. In relation to the report, and we talked about retention and everything, I think I don't want to go back and drab about COVID, but we've had a difficult 2 years, and I think our social care have had a difficult time in that 2 years and the pressures, and I think that's impacted on retention. I think people have opted under those pressures to find alternative work. So not just for Bridgend, we have a partnership working with across the road here who have lost staff who never come back after they were furloughed or whatever. They took a career change and they've never come back because they've made that change where they may have stayed in their job if we never had this. And I think we need to reflect that, because the competitors out there are up in the game with money they're paying per hour. You chaired a reference Indeed. If you have a look on there, I had a look last night for social care jobs and cleaning jobs in Bridgend. It was a cleaner job on there for £11 an hour. Do you know what I mean? So you can see why I think the authority are going to have to work a bit harder to retain some of those jobs. We see about cleaners. We don't hear so much about the high technical jobs, to be honest. I'm talking about we hear more about social care, domiciliary care. And that's what they're saying to us, the pressures. And what you've got, once you lose your staff, there's pressures on those that remain, and that causes problems itself. So it's about tackling that. And no one has the answer. You know, it's all across Wales in social care. There's a report out there from the Senedd about the difficulties. Do you know what I mean? And I think that we need to factor that in, where everyone's got this problem, and it's not just Bridgend really, and the difficult 2 years we've had.
Thanks, Neil. And you'll be pleased to learn that Councillor Gebbie and I have got a co-sponsored motion before the next council, laying down the gauntlet to Westminster to ensure that pay for employees is raised by RPI plus 2%. So that will hopefully gain universal support among our colleagues. So I think that brings this item to a conclusion, unless anyone else has anything to say. I would like to add my thanks to you, Deborah. You've survived your final grilling by the Corporate Review and Scrutiny Committee. Thank you for all your hard work over the last 4 decades. And I thank all the invitees to this meeting. It has been an hour and 3/4, ladies and gentlemen, so I propose that we take a 10-minute break. What time is it now? More or less 10 to, so we'll return at midday. Thank you very much.